You already know something is wrong, not with the world, not with the people around you. With the story you keep telling yourself about who you are. You felt it, that quiet unease that shows up at 2 a.m. when the noise stops and the silence becomes too honest. You push it away, you reach for your phone, you find something to watch, someone to blame, something to plan. Anything to avoid sitting with what you almost just felt. That's not weakness, that's survival. But Plato would tell you something you don't want to hear. The thing you're surviving from is yourself. Most people spend their entire lives running from a truth they can already feel. Not because they lack intelligence, not because they lack opportunity, but because the truth, when it arrives fully formed, asks something of you that comfort never will. It asks you to become different. And becoming different means admitting that what you were before was incomplete, that the version of yourself you've defended, explained, and protected for years was built on something fragile. That is the fear, not of the unknown, of the known. Think about the last time someone challenged something you deeply believed about yourself, your choices, your identity. What happened in your body? There was a tightening, a flash of heat, a sudden need to explain, defend, or dismiss. You called it logic. You called it standing your ground. But what it actually was a system protecting itself. Not you protecting truth. You protecting the version of truth you could survive. Plato watched this happen in Athens every single day. Brilliant people. Educated people. People who could argue philosophy for hours. And yet when Socrates asked them one simple question, when he peeled back one assumption, they didn't become curious. They became hostile. Because the question wasn't threatening their argument. It was threatening their image of themselves. And that image, that constructed, carefully maintained image, is the cave. Not a physical place. Your cave is the set of beliefs you've never seriously questioned, because questioning them would require you to question the person who built them. Every comfortable assumption you hold about your own goodness, your own intelligence, your own victimhood, your own righteousness, those are the shadows on the wall. And you've spent years becoming an expert at reading shadows, naming them, organizing them, defending them, while the actual fire burns somewhere behind you in a direction you've chosen not to look. Here is what makes this unbearable. You are not ignorant. That would be easier. The person who has never seen light doesn't suffer from its absence. You have glimpsed it. In moments of brutal honesty, after a failure you couldn't rationalize, after a relationship ended and you finally admitted your part in it, after a quiet moment when you heard your own thoughts clearly and didn't like what they said. In those moments, you touched something real, and then you walked away from it. Why? Because truth without transformation is just pain. And transformation is terrifying because it has no guarantee. The comfortable lie at least gives you a stable floor. The truth opens a door, but doesn't promise anything on the other side. So you choose the floor, every time. And then you wonder why something still feels hollow. Look at what you consume. Not just content. Look at the ideas you allow close to you. Notice how carefully you curate the voices you listen to. How quickly you dismiss a perspective that challenges your self-image, and how warmly you receive one that confirms it. You think you're being discerning. What you're actually doing is conducting a daily audit of reality, keeping in what flatters you, removing what disturbs you, and calling the result truth. Plato called this the love of one's own opinion over the love of wisdom. And he said it was the most dangerous condition a human being could be in. Not because they're wrong about facts, because they've made their ego the standard by which facts are measured. Once that happens, no argument reaches them. No evidence lands. Every challenge becomes an attack, and every attack confirms they must be over the target. You've met people like this. Here's the question Plato would force you to sit with. When did someone last genuinely change your mind about something important? Not a small preference, something real. Something about how you live, how you treat people, what you want, who you are. If you're struggling to remember, that's not a sign of exceptional wisdom. That's a sign the cave has become very comfortable. The people around you have noticed things about you that you have not. They've seen patterns you explain away, behaviors you justify, edges you smooth over with your own private narrative. Some of them have tried to tell you, and you remember exactly how that felt, and exactly what you did with it. You filed it under jealousy, or misunderstanding, or their own unresolved problems, because the alternative, that they were seeing something real, would mean the mirror is accurate, and you've been very careful never to stand directly in front of it. Here is the deepest thing Plato understood about fear and truth. We don't fear being wrong. We fear being seen as wrong. The internal experience of error is manageable. The social exposure of it feels fatal. So we build elaborate internal architectures to ensure that even in private, we can maintain the verdict of our own innocence. We become the judge, the jury, and the only witness, and we run the trial until we win. But something in you knows the verdict is fixed. That gnawing sense that you are not living as honestly as you claim. That the gap between how you present yourself and how you privately experience yourself is wider than you're comfortable admitting. That some of your strongest convictions exist not because you examined them and found them true, but because examining them was something you decided long ago not to do. This is not judgment. This is description. This is what Plato saw when he looked at human beings in full. Not sinners, not fools, but prisoners who would learn to love their chains because the chains were familiar, because the chains were theirs. The freed prisoner in Plato's allegory doesn't walk out celebrating. He walks out in agony. The light blinds him. His legs are weak. Everything he thought was real turns out to be a projection. And the first instinct, every time, in every person, is to turn back, to return to the dark, to the shapes he knew, to the comfortable expertise he built in a world that wasn't real. Most people turn back, not because they're cowards, because the pain of truth is immediate, and the reward of truth is distant. And we are creatures wired for the immediate, comfort now, clarity later. Except later never comes, because you keep choosing now. So here is what you are left with. Not a lesson, not a solution. A question that Plato spent his life placing in front of human beings. The same question that got Socrates killed. The same question that has never stopped being dangerous. What would you have to stop believing about yourself? To finally see clearly? Sit with that. Don't answer quickly. The quick answer is just another shadow. The real answer lives in the part of you that already knows, and has always known, and has been very, very quiet, waiting for you to stop running long enough to listen.